Hey ChatGPT, are human beings and this universe just code like an app or software? Correct. I had this detailed discussion with ChatGPT today in quite a bit of detail, but instead of presenting the complete argument, I shared it with Jack and Wilson to summarize it in their deep dive, so here you go. Before we begin, a lot of you listen to my podcast but do not subscribe or hit the like button, which hurts me and my team a lot. Please consider hitting the like and subscribe button before we move. Jack and Wilson, all yours now.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your source materials, dig into them, and pull out the most profound and usable knowledge.
And today, we are tackling a truly wild thought experiment.
It really is. We're exploring this really surprising intersection between the digital world, the cold, hard logic of code, and these ancient, very powerful concepts of divine creation.
Yeah, we've dissected a fascinating philosophical conversation on this exact link. It analyzes how the language we use to command machines mirrors the language some theological traditions use to describe the genesis of existence itself.
It sounds so abstract, but the implications for how we view our own technology are, they're completely concrete.
Absolutely.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really map that out. We want to extract the core analogy, this idea of divine command versus human programming, and then try to understand the ethical, the intellectual implications for us as users and, increasingly as creators.
It's the ultimate reflection, isn't it? If the word is the source of all reality, then what does it mean when we type a command in Python or Java? How does that echo that ultimate source? And I think more importantly, what burden does that place on us?
Okay, so let's just jump right in. We have to start with the theological concept at the heart of this entire discussion. It's the phrase Kun-Fayakun. Now, for those who might not be familiar, the sources define this as essentially the command, be, and it is.
And that phrase, it just carries an immense theological weight. It signifies creation that isn't gradual, it's not laborious, it doesn't depend on, pre-existing materials. It's instantaneous. Absolutely.
It's zero time lag.
Zero. The command is issued and existence is realized. The word itself is the mechanism of reality.
Now, I know some listeners might immediately, push back on drawing a parallel between that kind of omnipotence and a programmer who's struggling with a syntax error at 2 in the morning.
Of course, yeah.
But the source material isn't focused on the power level. It's focused on the structural similarity, the pipeline from command to reality.
And that is the absolute key. It's the mechanism of command. Think about programming not just as giving instructions, but as an active definition.
Okay.
When a programmer writes a function or initializes a variable, they are, in a sense, issuing a command that brings something new into functional existence within that digital system.
Right. You don't ask the computer nicely to please consider making a database. You command it. Initialize new database.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, database B.
Precisely. And what happens next is so crucial to this analogy. The compiler, or the interpreter, it translates that command into machine code, and the computer's state immediately changes to reflect that new reality. That digital object, that algorithm, it now is. It exists.
So the source is arguing that the instantaneous execution of code, that moment, the system just changes its state on command. That's the conceptual parallel.
Yes. The scale is, it's infinitely smaller, obviously. But the principle is analogous. The word, which is the code, acts as the progenitor. What's so fascinating here is that the command dictates the parameters, the destiny of that little digital world.
If you tell a digital object to hold a certain value, that is its reality.
It is its reality until a new command changes it. The creation of digital order springs directly from the word.
Which, of course, leads us to the most provocative claim in these sources. When humans are writing code, when they're architecting these massive platforms, are programmers, in a sense, acting as creators.
The sources affirm this with a very unqualified absolutely. If creation is defined as bringing something new, functional, and organized into existence, then programmers are undeniably creators.
They design systems that solve real-world problems or just create new forms of entertainment.
Exactly. They're building entire worlds of functionality and interaction.
Okay, but let me just push back on that for a second. Because if I write bad code, it fails, right? The program crashes, the database gets corrupted. Divine command, presumably, doesn't need debugging.
Right.
So isn't that where the analogy just kind of falls apart? It reduces the programmer to more of a technician, doesn't it?
That's a really crucial point, and it's actually where we need to move from the structural analogy to the idea of a hierarchy. A technician just follows instructions. A programmer defines the instructions. They define the rules of the system.
Ah, okay.
So even when the code fails, the programmer was the one who created the possibility of that failure in the first place by defining the system's rules and boundaries.
So the act of creation isn't about achieving a perfect outcome. It's about creating the system itself. It's the digital ecosystem and the laws of physics you impose on it.
Exactly. Think about a major social media platform. The engineers created an ecosystem. They define the rules of engagement, the algorithm that decides what you see, the logic that dictates how you interact.
They created a world.
They created a world of functionality, and in doing so, they determined the digital destiny for billions of people. I mean, that is immense creative power.
It's the difference between building the game board and just being a piece on it. The programmer sets the boundaries, the rules, the victory conditions.
And this creative act, this ability to issue a command and change the digital state, this is where the philosophy gets really deep. Because while we can create these incredible applications, the source material is very, very clear.
But there's a difference.
A crucial qualitative difference between human creation and the ultimate source of creation.
Okay, let's unpack this distinction because I think it's the heart of understanding our place in this whole system.
Right. So our ability to create anything, an app, a song, a scientific theory, it stems from what the source calls a deeper reservoir of knowledge and inspiration. Human creation is, it's derivative.
We're working within a sandbox we didn't build.
We didn't build the sandbox. We are reconfiguring raw materials, silicon, electricity, logic that were already here. We don't invent gravity. We just learn its rules and build planes that work within them.
In stark contrast, the divine creation, this Kun-Fayakun, it encompasses the entirety of existence. It creates the rules, the materials, the very possibility of logic itself.
And that's something fundamentally beyond our reach. We can create digital parameters, but we can never, ever create the physical parameters that allow the computer to even exist.
So it's not a competition between creators. It's a hierarchy. And the sources lay out a really clear sort of layered structure for this.
Yes, the hierarchy puts everything in context. At the very top, you have the divine source, the one who commands existence and defines the ultimate, immutable parameters of reality.
And then below that, you have humans. We innovate, we create technologies that reflect our own creativity, but we're using the tools and materials given to us from that layer above. We're secondary creators in a sense.
And then finally, at the third layer, you have our creations, the AIs, the software, the virtual worlds that these technologies enable. And these things exist only because we, as secondary creators, commanded them to.
If we connect that to the bigger picture, it really emphasizes that humans create within boundaries. We are bounded by physical laws we can't change.
And that distinction is just so vital. The ultimate intelligence creates the foundational parameters. We, in our programming, create realities that are governed by those foundational rules. It doesn't diminish what programmers do.
No, if anything, it makes it more significant.
It places accountability on them. It reminds them that their creative act is rooted in a much greater, more complex system.
Which brings this conversation from the purely philosophical right down into the practical. Why does this matter? Why should we, in our daily lives, care about this relationship between absolute command and programming commands?
It matters because it frames technology with intrinsic meaning. It's not just a tool. Understanding this relationship fosters, I think, two critical things: humility and responsibility.
Humility, how so?
The humility comes from recognizing that the sheer complexity of life, the original creation, is so much more intricate than any code base we could ever write.
Right.
It helps us appreciate our finite, yet still powerful place in all of it.
And the responsibility part comes from recognizing that our code isn't just a string of characters. It's an act of creating a state, a reality.
That's the core ethical imperative from the source material. When you see technology as a manifestation of creative power, you have to be responsible with it. The sources warn that because coding is a command, it can be used to construct or to destroy, to bring order or to unleash chaos.
And that completely shifts the focus from does the code work to
What moral reality does this command create? Exactly. When you recognize your command creates a reality, even a digital one, you become ethically bound to make sure that reality is a beneficial one. We see this play out constantly with things like algorithmic bias, don't we?
all the time. The rules we impose digitally have profound moral weight. So if we're trying to navigate this world, what guidance does this give us? How should we govern ourselves as these secondary creators?
The guidance really centers on intentionality. The first takeaway is to maintain this sort of radical awareness of our responsibilities. We are accountable for the systems we build. Complexity is not an excuse for a lack of foresight.
Okay, that's one. What's two?
Second, we have to strive for real intention in our actions. This means making sure our technological advancements don't just chase efficiency or profit. They should actively benefit society and, as the sources put it, reflect values that uplift humanity.
It's a design philosophy, really. The function of the code has to serve a greater good.
It has to. And finally, fostering a powerful sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the whole complex stack of creation, the fact that a computer works, the laws of physics that allow it to exist, and the human systems that let us innovate in the first place.
These are meant to be active guides for our decision-making. This has been incredibly insightful. It reveals a depth you just don't normally think about, linking divine command with digital instruction. The worlds of technology and spirituality, they aren't just parallel, they intersect at the point of creation.
Which really raises an important question for you, the listener, to think about. The source argues that ultimate creation sets the fundamental laws of existence, the ultimate parameters.
Right.
So if human coding creates digital realities governed by human-defined parameters, how does recognizing this cosmic hierarchy change how we should approach fixing our digital worlds when they break, when they fail to serve people, or when they create instability? Is fixing a flawed algorithm just debugging? Or is it something more, like a necessary moral restructuring of the parameters we ourselves imposed?
We'll let you decide until next time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious and keep exploring the powerful connections between your own creative pursuits and these deeper philosophical questions. So what does this all mean?
Thanks for listening till the end. If you are a non-Muslim and willing to revert to Islam, it is easy. You just need to say the Shahada, the Creed, with your heart and mind. You don't need anyone's help. It is simple. First, the meaning of Shahada. The Shahada is the Islamic declaration of faith and is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It consists of 2 main parts. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Wa Ashhadu anna Mohammadar Rasulullah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Congratulations! Reciting the Shahada with sincerity is the first step in converting to Islam. It emphasizes the belief in the oneness of God Allah and the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Shahada is central to a Muslim's faith and identity. Please join our WhatsApp group to let us know. The link is in the video description. Ask me any question that you may have.